We move to Ethiopia and reports of trouble in the Oromo region where students and others have been demonstrating. The British Foreign Office says there was violent unrest in the town of Ambo on Wednesday and there have been reports of deaths. Our Africa editor Mary Harper is here. Mary, what's going on?
It seems that over the past few days there's been growing protests across the huge Oromo region, which is dominated by members of the Oromo ethnic group. Mainly students and some others have been protesting in various towns, and there have been reports it's been very, very difficult to get any information out, showing just how repressive the authorities are there. But I've been receiving some calls from people saying that a number of students were killed, were shot dead, and others wounded in the town of Ambo by members of the security services.
Recent killings in Ethiopia are causing outrage among immigrants who now live in the northwest metro.
Oromo is one of 9 regional states in Ethiopia. Last week, student protesters there were gunned down by Ethiopian security forces. Now, demonstrators around the world are reacting.
Say no to murderers! Say no to murderers! Say no to murderers!
Today, demonstrators gathered at the state capitol in St. Paul to raise awareness and to condemn the killings. About 40,000 Oromos live in Minnesota, including many in the Northwest Metro. And 2 Brooklyn Park residents say political prisoners should be released and U.S. aid cut off to the Ethiopian government.
It's about raising awareness. We want the U.S. government to know what's going on. We want the Minnesota state government to know what's going on back home, and that the U.S. needs to stop providing our tax-paying money to support this regime.
Enough is enough, and we don't want our kids and the students being killed without no reason.
The dispute centers on the taking of farmland in Oromo. Demonstrators say more than 70 students have been killed in confrontations with the Ethiopian government in the past 2 weeks.
Several hundred Ethiopians rallied outside the Alberta legislature tonight to protest the ongoing unrest in their home country. The protesters are angry over the deaths of several students near the country's capital during anti-government protests earlier this week. Unrest has been brewing for months now. The group is hoping to raise awareness within the international community about the ongoing violence and is asking the Canadian government to stop supporting the Ethiopian regime with development money. Many came from across the province for tonight's rally.
ስርዓት ወያነ ኣብ ክልል ኦሮሚያ ክትግብሮን ዝወጠነ ፖሊሲ ምምንዛዕ መሬት ሓረስቶት ብምቋም ኣብ ዝቕንያት እዚ ኣብ ዝተፈላለዩ ከተማታት በሰላማዊ መገዲ ተቃውሞም ኣብ ልዕሊ ዝገልጹ ዝነበሩ ሰላማውያን ተማሃሮ ዝፈጸሞ አረሜናው ግፍዒ ንሐቀኛ ምስሊ ዘቃልዕ ምዃኑ ግንባር ሓርነት ኦሮሞ ገሊጹ
in Washington to help stop the bloodshed in their native land. Siouxland News reporter Joe Bazaccio was there.
The Oromo nation of Ethiopia protested outside the U.S. federal courthouse earlier this morning to get an answer from Senator Grassley about what could be done over in Africa. The protesters were mostly students and presented the senator's staff with a letter voicing their concerns. Some African countries are at a constant risk of overthrow, and the Oromo people of Ethiopia feel the growing threat in their home region. Secretary of State John Kerry was in the Ethiopian capital earlier this week and spoke briefly about the growing unrest in the area.
Those who are responsible for targeted killings based on ethnicity or nationality have to be brought to justice.
Security forces in Ethiopia have reportedly opened fire on students who are protesting a government plan to expand the boundaries of the capital, Addis Ababa. Witnesses say forces fired live ammunition against peaceful protesters last week during a security crackdown that coincided with a visit by Secretary of State John Kerry. The government has said 8 people died during the protests in the state of Oromo, but a resident of the town of Ambo told the BBC security forces killed 47 people.
Hi, I'm Samantha with Free Speech TV. We're here reporting at the Colorado State Capitol to cover a rally held by the Oromo community of Denver. They are here to raise awareness for the recent clashes that took place between military and students in the city of Ambo. The students were peacefully protesting the possibility of foreign direct investment that will displace countless Oromo communities and take away farmland from farm owners.
The protest is about the Oromo people not having freedom or having any voice
in their country, in Ethiopia. We have freedom of speech. We have that right here, and we want to speak for our people who don't have voices.
I'm a college student myself. I'm a parent, and then I don't want to see that happen to anybody. Like, we have family members, my own brother, my own cousin, they're missing from their school. And this is personal to us because these students are getting killed for protesting. What I'm doing here could get me killed in Ethiopia. If I'm in Ethiopia, I could get killed right now for standing here saying this. It's not even political. This is about humanity. As a human being, I do not like seeing something like that happen to anybody, not just my family member.
We're not talking about 1 million or 2 million people that are struggling on a daily basis. We're talking about 40 million people. We make up 40%, nearly 40% of the Ethiopian population, and I think people should actually hear what these people are all about and what their oppressors are all about, and I think people should open up their eyes and really listen to, look at what's going on in Ethiopia, and really listen to our struggles.
This is Samantha with Free Speech TV.
And speaking of presidents who don't care about their people, have you guys heard about what happened in Ethiopia last week? The Ethiopian security forces opened fire on students last Thursday during a non-violent protest. Non-violent at Western Oromia in Ambo town. I still don't get it. Africa, when are we going to wake up? Why are we killing our own children? Why are we killing ourselves? This is not even colonial time. This is not an attack from an enemy outside Ethiopia. This is the government of Ethiopia killing its own people. How do you explain that? How do you defend a government that opens fire on peaceful protesters in broad daylight? Do you know that they killed more than 30 people that day on the spot? More than 30 people. To be honest, I'm really concerned about what's going on in Ethiopia. Are things really getting better? I mean, it wasn't long ago that they jailed those women that were protesting during a marathon. Remember that I talked about that. Women protesting as they were running. And not only that, just last Sunday, they jailed 6 bloggers. Bloggers! And 3 journalists. Now, bloggers, that just doesn't make sense to me. So that means you can't even blog anymore. There is no freedom of blogging. Tell me, if there is no freedom of blogging, what freedom do you have? You don't have to be a journalist to blog. It's your right to blog about whatever you want. But now they are saying you can't even blog. So they jailed 6 bloggers and 3 journalists. Of course, they've been jailing journalists for a long time, you know. Even journalists who have terminal diseases. There's this female journalist that has breast cancer. They jailed her. There's another male journalist that has kidney problems. They jailed him. They've been jailing journalists for a long time in Ethiopia. And guess what their crime was? These bloggers and 3 journalists that were arrested. The Ethiopian government said that these young people are working with foreign organizations. They're working with human rights activists abroad, and that they're using social media to destabilize the country. And they did not explain to us how these people are destabilizing Ethiopia. Does that make sense? And this is a democratic country. In case you don't know, Ethiopia is a democratic country. The next thing is that they arrested them and they jailed them. And as a matter of fact, the government opened a court session last Sunday in order to sentence these bloggers to prison. You see why I'm saying that I'm really afraid of the way things are going right now? So because they want to get rid of these bloggers and this journalists, they wanted to sentence them as quickly as possible. Because of that, they opened the court on a Sunday. Hey, yeah. How can you not have freedom of press in a democratic country? It doesn't go together. Ethiopia. So now people can no longer protest because they may open fire on them, and you can no longer blog because you may be arrested. It doesn't even matter what you are blogging about. They can come up with an excuse about how that can destabilize Ethiopia. I honestly hope that the government of Ethiopia would wake up on time and have a change of mind before it's too late. You can't keep going like this, and don't think that this is only affecting Ethiopians. No, the whole of Africa. It's a ripple effect. What is going on in Nigeria right now? I'm I'm sure it's affecting neighboring countries. It's affecting so many things. When Boko Haram can kidnap 200 girls and get away with it, you understand what I'm saying. So this is not just about Ethiopians. This is about all Africans. Honestly, it's not worth it. All the things that they are doing, it's not worth it. You are doing more harm than good. So many countries are looking up to Ethiopia. So we need to get it right. Now, to all my Ethiopian brothers and sisters, please don't keep quiet. I believe that change will come. And my deepest condolences, to all the people who have lost somebody in the recent shooting. It's so sad. I can't even imagine what you're going through. Let the government of Ethiopia know that the whole world is watching. Guess what? I'm just keeping it real.
ሓይልታት ጸጥታ ስርዓት ወያኔ ካብ 29 ሚያዝያ ክልል ኦሮሚያ ኣብ ልዕሊ ሰላማዊ መንገዲ ተቃውሞም ክገልጹ ዝቕንዩ ተወለድቲ ኦሮሞ ዝኾኑ ተማሃሮ ዝኸፈትዎ ተኽሲ ናይ ዘቐትሎም ተማሃሮ ቁጽሪ 31 ከም ዝበጽሐ ዝተፈላለዩ ምንጭታት ይገልጹ ኣለዉ። እቶም ስርዓት ወያኔ ከተማ አዲስ አበባ ንስፋሕ ብዝብል መደብ በ10ታት ኣሽሓት ንዝቁጸር ህዝቢ ኦሮሞ ብምግዓዝ መሬቱ ንምንዛዕ ንዘውፀው ጥን ብምቋም ኣብ ጅማ፣ ሃራሚያ፣ አምቦ፣ ወለጋ፣ ቡላሂዮራ፣ ማዳዋላቡ፣ መቱ፣ አዳማን፣ ድሬዳዋን ተቃውሞኦም ዝገልጹ ዝነበሩ ተማሃሮ እቲ መደብ ንህዝቢ ኦሮሞ ግዳይ ምምዝባልን ድኽነትን ዝገብር ውጹእ ናይ ምግባት መሬት ስትራቴጂ ይኽብሉ ብትሪ ኾኒሞ ቅትለት ናይቶም ተማሃሮ ሓያሉ ኸባቢታት ኣብ ህዝቢ ሓያል ቁጥዕ ስለ ዝፈጠረ ብርቱዕን ዓቢ ከም ዘስዓበ ከም ውጽኢቱ ድማ ኣብ አምቦ ሓያሉ ትካላትን መካይንን ከዓንን ከሎ ንህይወቶም ሰግኡ ነበርቲ ኣብ ኣብያተ ክርስቲያን መሳጊድን ክዕቀቡ ከም ተራዩ ይጋዋሕ ኣሎ። ስርዓት ወያኔ ነዚ ምልዓልዝን ምቁጻይ ዝለኣኹም ሓይልታት ጸጥታ ብ2930 ሚያዝያ ኣብ ልዕለቶም ብሰላማዊ መንገዲ ተቃውሞኦም ዝገልጹ ዝነበሩ ተወለድቲ ኦሮሞ ዝኾኑ ተማሃሮ ብዝኸፈትዎ ተኽሲ 10ታት ከም ዝቆሰሉ በዚ ምኽንያት ድማ ትካላት ጥዕና ብቁስላት ዕልቕሊቑ ስለ ዘሎ ቁጽሪ ግዳያት ሞት ክውስኽ ከም ዝኽእል ጸብጻባት ይእምቱ። ብዘይካዝብ 30 ሚያዝያ ኣብ ሃራሚያ ተማሃሮ ግጥም ኩዕሶ እግሪ ኣብ ዝዕዘብሉ ዝነበሩ እዋን ዝተፈንጀረ ቦምብ ሓደ ተማሃራይ ክሞትን ከሎ ሓያሉ ካልኦት ከም ዝቆሰሉ ምንጭታት ካብቲ ኸባቢ ሓቢሮም ምስፍሕፋሕን ሓይልን ናይቲ ምልዓል ንስርዓት ወያኔ ከቢድ ጸቕጢ ስለ ዝፈጠረሉ ዩኒቨርሲታት 6 ኪሎን 4 ኪሎን ብሓደ ጉንበት ብገዚፍ ሓይሊ ፖሊስን ጸጥታን ተኸዲነን ከም ዝውዓላ ይግለጽ ኣሎ። እንተኾነ ግን እቲ ተቃውሞ እናሰፍሐ ይመጽእ ብምህላው ኣብ ዝመጽእ መዓታት ካልእ ምዕባለታት ክኽሰት ከም ዝኽእል እዮም ጸብጻባት ዘመልክቱ።
To stand together, Oromo, Somali, Hispanic, we have to stand together as New American, we have to stand together as American and also face the human right abuse in other countries. So I'm here with you. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. My name is John Hoffman. I represent Brooklyn Park. Anybody from Brooklyn Park here? Thank you. Yeah. How about it? What a travesty to see 80 young lives killed.
The student.
And they're students, number one. But here we sit, free. Let's make it free for them as well, shall we? Will you stand with Thong, her, and I to get out and educate people? Resolution! Let's do this! Let's do this! Thank you!
Release that was handed out at today's rally, and it starts off by saying, "We Oromo Canadians, we are marching to protest the brutal killings of the Oromo University students by the minority dictatorial regime of Ethiopia." The Oromo people are the single largest national group, constituting close to 50% of the 90 million population of Ethiopia. Nevertheless, the Oromo, the indigenous people of this region, were forcefully incorporated into present-day Ethiopia. We have lost our freedom, human dignity, and the right to self-rule, control over the natural resources, and we have been subjected to political suppression, marginalization, economic exploitation, and cultural domination. The current Ethiopian Abyssinian kingdom succeeded in conquering our people only with the help of the European colonial powers, but we have never ceased struggling to regain our lost freedom, human dignity, the right to self-rule in our country, Oromia, and for the right to determine our destiny. As it has been a practice of the Ethiopian state, the current Ethiopian regime for the past 23 years to continue to detain, torture, and kill our people for merely demanding our legitimate rights and persecution of our people has attained new heights this week, with our students staging a simple, peaceful demonstration through Oromia and demanding freedom, democracy, and the right to own and manage our resources. Our students' demand is legitimate as it concerns the Oromo people's entitlement to use and manage their own resources like any other people. They are peacefully demanding their constitutional right to be respected, Instead of heeding the peaceful demonstrations' legitimate demands, the ruling party is presently unleashing its security forces against unarmed students, and more than 75 young university students have been murdered by the regime's security forces thus far. We call upon the democratic governments and the people of the world to stand with the Oromo student legitimate demands for freedom, self-rule, democracy, and human dignity. We call upon the Canadian government to exert the leverage of the Ethiopian government and to help stop the killings of innocent Oromo students, respect the Oromo people's constitutionally guaranteed right to the special interests over Addis Ababa, and reverse the planned expansion of the city limit. Immediately release all those languishing in prison merely for expressing their political positions and view. We demand the international community to pressure the dictatorial and repressive Ethiopian government for all-inclusive political and community conference to deliberate on outstanding political issues and chart a lasting political solution for the country. We call upon the international community to stand with our people, to say no to the indiscriminate killings, torture, inhumane and degrading treatments of our people. We also call upon the stakeholders, political and non-political, to stand in unison with the Oromo and other Ethiopian people for freedom and democracy, freedom and justice for all.
We met to discuss the plight of the Oromo people who live in Ethiopia and 10 other countries in Eastern Africa. The Oromos are the single largest ethnic and indigenous group in Ethiopia. They comprise more than 30 million people out of Ethiopia's population of 90 million people. However, for a long time, these indigenous Oromo peoples have faced persecution from the Ethiopian government. According to the 2011 census, there are 4,489 Ethiopians living in Victoria. I'm advised that many Ethiopian people of Ethiopian background that live in Australia, like Senka Weisho, have deep concerns about what the Ethiopian government are doing to its people in Ethiopia. According to Ms. Weisho, the Ethiopian government has recently unveiled its capital Addis Ababa Integrated Master Plan, which aims to incorporate smaller townships surrounding the city of Addis Ababa into the major city. The consequence of this particular plan is that farmers in and around these smaller towns are being forced off their land. The action will, unchecked, force 2 million Oromo farmers and their families off their land. Ms. Weisho has advised that Ethiopia is in turmoil. The Oromo people are in a dire situation due to the political instability in the country. For example, on the 25th of April 2014, the Ethiopian government opened fire with live bullets on Oromo students who were protesting against this master plan, which would, as I said, evict 2 million farmers off their land. According to Ms. Weisho, this master plan is a systematic strategy to evict the Oromos from their capital city and to evacuate the citizens around the capital in order to destroy the identity, the cultural, political and social aspects of the Oromo people. It is deeply disturbing to hear from Ms. Weisho that Oromo university students and residents were killed, arrested and imprisoned for basically protesting peacefully and protesting for fundamental human right. According to Ms. Weisho, the International Oromo Youth Association urgently requests the following actions to be taken in an attempt to pressure the Ethiopian government to stop terrorising the peaceful Oromo protesters. Firstly, there are 30,000 Oromo peoples that are actually in prison. They want them released and not subjected to torture and harassment in jail. Second, they want the Ethiopian government to immediately stop this forceful displacement of the Oromo people. And thirdly, that the international community should act in favour and to support the innocent civilian populace that is seeking a fundamental human right. Punitive actions by this government should be contemplated by the international community in its campaign to support the Oromo people in its campaign for freedom of expression. I certainly would like to thank Ms. Weisho and her companions for meeting with me, and I will continue to raise their concerns on behalf of the Oromo people.
ተመልካቾቻችን ሰበር ዜና አለን። በተለያዩ ከፍተኛ የትምህርት ተቋማት የኦሮሞ ተማሪዎች የጀመሩት ተቃውሞ ተጠናክሮ መቀጠሉ የተሰማ ሲሆን በዛሬው ዕለት በአምቦ ከተማ የጸጥታ ኃይሎች በወሰዱት እርምጃ ለጊዜው ቁጥራቸው በውል ያልታወቁ ተማሪዎችና የከተማዋ ነዋሪዎች መገደላቸውን፣ ስራ መስተጓጎሉን፣ የንግድ ቤቶች መዘጋታቸውን የአይን ምስክሮች ለኢሳት ገልጸዋል። ግድያውን የሚፈጽሙት አልሞ ተኳሾች ወይም ስናይፐር የታጠቁ የመንግስት የጸጥታ ኃይሎች እንደሆኑም ተመልክቷል። በከተማዋም እስከ ምሽት በዘለቀው ተኩስ ምን ያህል ሰዎች እንደተገደሉ የታወቀ ነገር ባይኖርም ኢሳት ያነጋግራቸው የአይን ምስክሮች የተለያዩ አሃዞችን ጠቅሰዋል። ማክሰኞ ሚያዝያ 21 2006 ዓ.ም በተማሪዎቹ ላይ ተጠናክሮ የመጣው የኃይል ጥቃት ረቡዕ በከፋ ሁኔታ መቀጠሉን የሚገልጹት ምንጮች በርካታ ቁስለኞች አምቦ ሆስፒታል መግባታቸውን ለኢሳት ገልጸዋል። ከአምቦ ባሻገር በወለጋም ሁኔታዎች አለመርገባቸው ሲገለጽ በጉደርና በጌዲዮ አካባቢዎች ባለው አለመረጋጋት የተሽከርካሪ እንቅስቃሴም ችግር እየገጠመው መሆኑ ተመልክቷል።
So she's the International Oromo Youth Association president. She's also a student for political science and legal studies with a concentration in economics. This is at Hamline University in Minnesota. She's from Ethiopia. Her name is Amani Badaso. Amani, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First of all, we're going to start off by what you represent, and this is the association of, the Oromo Youth Association. Can you tell us a bit about that association?
Yes, the International Oromo Youth Association is an umbrella organization that pretty much has membership of various Oromo organizations on a global scale. So our main focus is simply on leadership and networking and empowering Oromo youth on a global scale.
Okay.
So we focus on various things.
All right. So when you talk of Oromo, this is one of the largest ethnic groups in Ethiopia. Is that so?
Yes. We are over 40 million estimated number, and we are the largest ethnic group in Ethiopia. Right. Prior to the 19th century, we did have our own state, our own country. However, due to the occupation of the Abyssinian Empire towards the 19th century, we currently are under Ethiopia. So it's a regional state within Ethiopia.
Okay, so your role as president, what is it? What does it involve?
My role as I am a diaspora president, being that I reside within the United States. What I do is focused, as I mentioned, on leadership, networking, and empowering Oromo youth on a global scale. So what we do is hold annual leadership conferences, focus on topics with regards to the Oromo people, and pretty much create a platform where we can and are able to be future leaders of the Oromo nation.
Okay, so there have been protests, we know, that have been held in Oromo region in the past month or so. Can you tell us exactly what these protests were about and how you got involved?
The protest, I am not currently involved in the protest. My job as a diaspora is to speak on the behalf of the individuals back home who are unable to voice for themselves. But speaking of going to the context of the protest began approximately 3 weeks ago. That is the time where the international community was aware of the protest. And the main reason why the protests are taking place is the Ethiopian government is incorporating the Addis Ababa Master Plan, also known as a developmental master plan. What the plan intends to do is expand the Addis Ababa region about 1.1 million hectares. Right. So what it initially wants to do is incorporate 36 cities and towns from the Oromia region under the Addis Ababa jurisdiction. The main reason why many Oromos, particularly students and farmers, are protesting against this plan is because it undermines their social, political, and economic rights, and also goes against the Ethiopian Constitution under Article 49, Section 5, which grants that particular city and town under the Oromia jurisdiction.
So this issue is more about the land, if we have to look at it very
much about the land, but it has much, as I mentioned before, the ethnic Oromos have been completely suppressed within the Ethiopian state for over a century. So this has much to do with the social, political, and economic factors of what this plan intends to do.
So Ethiopia has a record of oppressing or suppressing journalists or the media. Because
yes,
there's no media. We have obviously numerous reports about journalists that have been arrested. We also have reports about even bloggers that have been arrested. Do you know of any of these?
Yes, of course. Like you mentioned, to count the number of journalists within Ethiopia, to count the number of bloggers who have been arrested, I think is a little too much. But there's been mass arrests mainly for the factor of the current Ethiopian government is under the banner of EPRDF, but the major leaders are Tigray People's Liberation Front, and is an ethnic minority consistent of 6.1% of the Ethiopian population, single-handedly dominating the political and economic and military aspect of the Ethiopian state. So everything that occurs within Ethiopia is under their leadership. Okay. What we learn currently is that there is no media in Ethiopia, and any voice that speaks against the government, any voice that speaks against on the behalf of the oppressed is completely silenced, which is why currently there were, as you mentioned, there were 6 bloggers arrested, 3 journalists arrested, and also various numbers of political conscience prisoners such as Bekala Garba and many other numbers.
Okay, so since this protest, I believe there's been a clash between the police and the protesters, and some people have lost their lives.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Can you update us on that?
Yes. Soon after the protest took place, the protest began at one university and expanded to 11 universities. Among those universities there, the government has been sending out special security forces. Right. So what we have to understand is that Oromo Regional Police is not even dealing with these issues. The Ethiopian government sent out special forces known as the Agazi, who have killed an estimate over 80 students to date, but the numbers on the ground state that the numbers are higher. They have been arresting, they have been beating, they have been torturing various students. They have arrested over 30 college students, as well as high school 30,000 college students, pardon me. So there has been a brutal crackdown on innocent protesters who have nothing, not even pens in their hands, by these special security forces that really should not even be there if it wasn't to terrorize the protesters.
Okay, now we know that Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn actually stepped into power after the death of Zenawi, and that's probably in 2012. So since he's taken power, has anything changed? Because this has actually been going on years before that.
Oh, absolutely not.
So it's the same regime.
It is the same regime. It is operated in the same manner. In fact, I would like to add that the situation is quite worse. Killing over 80 students for simply protesting against a plan that plans to evict 6.6 million people and displace indigenous people while violating their constitutional rights. To me, that has expanded what we call state terrorism acts committed against innocent protesters.
So with your organization, how do you intend to maneuver this? Are you creating an awareness? Because obviously there's zero press freedom there. So are you using your association as a mouthpiece? And what message are you trying to drive out as of this moment to the international community or whoever will listen?
As the Oromo diaspora community, what we have to understand is, of course, all those students, there's many people here who are related to the individuals dying back home. So, of course, there's a connection. This was our country, and we will continue to speak on its behalf. But, however, as a diaspora community, the only thing we can do is speak for the voiceless, meaning we have to share what's going on back home to the little extent that is available. And my organization, as International Oromo Youth Association, is currently appalled by the crimes that is taking place to a point where we're not even 100% certain what we ought to do. But however, as an International Oromo Youth Association, we do have to take it upon our hands to tell various other international organizations that the Ethiopian regime is committing acts of state terrorism. These are acts of state terrorism when you're firing at innocent young students who are protesting. That is their constitutional right. And to commit these acts completely is quite devastating for all of us.
And the time at which these protests began and 234 students in Nigeria had actually been kidnapped in the hands of the terrorist group Boko Haram. And people took to Twitter, hashtag bring back our girls, hashtag. And this has created so much awareness around the world. And lots of people don't even know this is going on in Ethiopia.
Absolutely.
Where 80 students are dead, the number could be more.
Yes, actually, the numbers are more, to be firm. They've been expelling students from school. Recently, we've heard reports from areas in Najo, the Oromia region, Nakamte. So various areas in the Oromo region are still being terrorized by Agazi forces. And that is mainly because the people have said, we will fight for this. This is our constitutional rights. You cannot silence us. And as we can see that the numbers are continuously rising as students are being raided at home, there's security forces being sent to homes, parents are having to bury their children while Agazi forces are beating the parents, stating that they have not disciplined their children. The situation is absolutely horrific, and the fact that the international community is not paying attention to this, and the fact that the largest ethnic group within Ethiopia is completely repressed, they have no voice, they have no support, of course that is quite devastating. And perhaps in the future we can raise awareness about the issue that's going on, but we have to understand that these mass killings will continue to take place so long as innocent people are voicing for their rights.
Okay, now just in closing, isn't this Prime Minister born in that Oromo region as well?
Most people say that he is. I cannot speak on his behalf.
Right.
As you know, a lot of information that comes from, we don't even know much about who's a leader per se.
Right.
But we understand that the military controls the Ethiopian state, and these horrific acts do, in fact, conclude that perhaps the Prime Minister is not even 100% in charge. It might be the military force that is.
Okay. So I think trying to raise awareness, the Bring Back Our Girls movement has actually taken the world over. And right now, everybody is at attention waiting for those girls to come back. And if your organization would probably do something like that, I'm sure it will probably take off as well. So, but anyway, thank you very much for joining us. And we wish you luck in the protest. And also, that you find a breakthrough in trying to resolve, the issues that the country is going through.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and also voicing on the issue. I really appreciate it.
We're welcome. This was Amani Badasu calling us from her hometown where she lives now in Minnesota. She was talking obviously about the protests that have been going on the past month in Oromo State in Ethiopia. Stay tuned. I'm Fungai Maboreke.
At least 9 people have been killed and 70 injured at student protests in southern Ethiopia this week, including in a grenade attack, the government said in a statement late Thursday. The government blamed anti-peace forces for inciting violence, while opposition groups accused the police of brutality. According to a statement on the state news agency, mass demonstrations caused loss of lives and property in several university towns in Oromia, Ethiopia's largest region. The riots, which began Wednesday after students confused by deliberately misleading rumors and gossips created havoc, had been brought under control, it added. 5 people were killed in Ambo, about 125 kilometers, 80, south of Addis Ababa, and another 3 people killed nearby Daya, about 415 kilometers, 260 miles, from the capital. The statement read, without giving details on how they died. A hand grenade killed 1 person and injured 70 in Alemaya, 366 kilometers, 230 miles, east of Addis Ababa. According to local media reports, the students were protesting government proposals to extend its administrative control to several towns in Oromia, sparking fears of land grabs. The students, tried to show their grievances by submitting their questions to the local government, but the answer they got was beatings, killing, harassment and coercion. Bekel Nega, secretary of the Oromo Federal Congress Party, told AFP. These people not only will lose their land, they are also going to lose their culture, their language, their identity, their representation in parliament.
Gaaffiin mirgaa Oromoon Finfinneerratti qabu uummanni karaa nagaatiin dhiyeeffachaa jiruuf humni waraanaa fi nageenya biyyattii afaan qawweetiin wayita deebii kennaa jirutti mormiin kun har'allee yuunivarsiitii Finfinneetti dhufeera. Sabaa himaaleen garaagaraa akka gabaasaa jiranitti guyyaa kaleessa magaalaa Amboof roobee qofaatti lubbuun namoota 30 galaafatameera. Kan lakkoofsaan hin shallagamne miidhaa hamaatiif saaxilamaniiru. Magaalaa Gudaritti lubbuun namoota 6 darbuun odeeffannoon ammaan kana nu qaqqabe ibseera. Guyyaa kaleessa mormii isaanii karaa nagaatiin utuu dhageessaa jiranii loltoota waraana mootummaatiin meeshaa ilaammatee ajjeesu yookaan sniper jedhamuun kan ajjeefaman keessaa barataa Indaalee Dassaalin jedhamu akka argamu maddaawwan sabaa himaa garaagaraa gabaasaa jiran. Karaa nagaatiin hiriiraa jiran marsuun reebicha hiraarsaa akka jiranidha kan gabaafame. Kaleessa Dirree Dhawaarraa gara barattoota 300 ta'an mana hidhaatti darbamuun hin oolle gabaasni jedhus dhiyaachaa jira. Har'a ganama barattoonni Oromoo Yuunivarsiitii Finfinnee mooraa 6 kiiloo keessatti karaa nagaatiin sagalee mormii utuu dhageessisaa jiranii humna poolisii federaalawaatiin bittimsamuun isaanii beekameera. Bulchitoonni yuunivarsiitichaa barattoonni akka adabatanii ta'an sodaachisaa turuun isaanii himameera. Haa ta'uti barattoonni afaan Oromoo, afaan Amaaraa fi afaan Ingiliziitiin Oromiyaan hin gurguramtu gaaffii mirgaa karaa nagaatiin uummanni fi barattoonni gaafatan afaan qawweetiin deebii kennuun yakkaadha. Bilisummaa barbaannaa dhaadannoowwan jedhan sagalee ol kaasanii dhageessifachaa akka turan hubatameera. Kunutu kanaan jiru mormii magaalaa Ambootti kaleessa ka'een lubbuun namoota erga galaafatameen booda mootummaan humna waraanaa hedduu dabalataan gara magaalattiitti sochoosuun gabaafamaa jira. Mormii ka'e kanatti makamuun godina Shawaa Lixaatti uummanni aanaa Dandii, Jalduu fi Gindabarat karaa konkolaataa cufaa akka jiran maddeewwan keenya nuuf gabaasaa jiru. Kabajamtoota daawwattoota keenya odeeffannoon dhimma mormii dhimma maaster pilaanii Finfinnee wajjin wal qabate godhamaa jiru ilaalchisee akkuma nu qaqqabeen isiniif dhiyeessina. Odeeffannoo kennuudhaaf bilbila waajjira keenya 612946770 irratti bilbiluudhaan nuuf dabarsuu ni dandeessu.
አዲስ አበባንና በኦሮሚያ ልዩ ዞን የሚገኙ ከተሞችን በልማት ለማሳሰር የተነደፈው የጋራ መሪ ፕላን አስመልክቶ በኦሮሚያ ክልል በሚገኙ አንዳንድ ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች በሰውና በንብረት ላይ ጉዳት መድረሱን የመንግስት ኮሙኒኬሽን ጽህፈት ቤት አስታወቀ። በክልሉ በሚገኙ የተወሰኑ ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች በሰው ህይወትና ንብረት ላይ ጉዳት መድረሱን መግለጫው አስታውቋል። በዚህ በኃይል በታጀበ ግርግር ሳቢያ በመደወራቡ የ3 ተማሪዎች ህይወት ማለፉ ተረጋግጧል። በተለይም በአምቦ ዩኒቨርሲቲ የተቀሰቀሰው ሁከት ወደ ከተማ በመዝለቁ በአምቦና ቶኬ ኩታዮ ከተማዎች የ7 ሰዎች ህይወት አልፏል። በተያዘም በሐረማያ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ለጊዜው ማንነታቸው ባልታወቁ ሰዎች በሰላም የእግር ኳስ ጨዋታ በቴሌቪዥን በመካተል ላይ በነበሩ ተማሪዎች ላይ በተወረወረ ፈንጂ ወደ 70 ያህል ተማሪዎች የመቁሰል አደጋ የደረሰባቸው ሲሆን የአንድ ተማሪ ህይወት ማለፉ ተረጋግጧል ብሏል መግለጫው።
Gaazexaan biyya Britain International Business Times jedhamu maxxansa torbee har'aatiin barattoonni Oromoo Yuunivarsiitiiwwanii maaster pilaanii Finfinnee mormuun gaaffii kaasaniif tarkaanfii fudhatameen barattoonni 11 ajjeefamaniiru. Akka miidiyaalee itti dhiyoo jiran gabaasanitti immoo lakkoofsi barattoota ajjeefamanii 40 gahaa jechuun gabaasee jira. Gaazexaan Twin Cities Daily Planet jedhamu magaalaa Minneapolis maxxanfamu humnoonni tikaa Itoophiyaa barattoota Oromoo 75 ajjeesuun 200 kan ta'an immoo madeesseera jechuun gabaase. Barattoonni 2,000 ta'an mana hidhaa biyyattii keessatti dhiphachaa jiru. Ragaan dhaabbata mirga namoomaas kanuma mirkaneessa erga jedhee booda mootummaan biyyattii garuu barattoonni 11 qofaatu du'e jechuun haalee jira jedhee gabaaseera. Bloogin Somaliland san jedhamu maxxansasaa guyyaa har'aatiin hawaasni Oromoo Ameerikaa Minnesotaa jiraatanii fi sabni Ogaden haalattiin mootummaa Itoophiyaa karaa dippiloomaasiitiin buusuu danda'amu irratti mari'atan jechuun gabaase. Gabaasasaa kanaanis saboonni Ogaden Itoophiyaa keessa jiraatan akkuma uummata Oromoo dhiibbaan irra gahaa jira jedha. Bloogin KDLT News jedhamu immoo hawaasni Oromoo South Dakota keessa jiraatan hiriira ba'uun mormii isaanii dhageessaniiru. Pirezidaanti Barack Obamaanis ajjechaa barattoota Oromoorratti raawwachaa jiru akka dhaabsisaniif xalayaa barreessuun White House'itti erganiiru jechuun gabaaseera. Gaazexaan biyya Egypt Ahram jedhamus hawaasni Oromoo Egypt magaalaa Kaayiroo fuuldura liigii Arabaatti wal gahuun ajjechaa raawwachaa jiru mormaniiru. Hawaasni addunyaas akka balaaleffataniif gaafataniiru jechuun gabaaseera.
Allaattiin gammoojjii osoo dubbatte qurxummiin galaanaa afaan baafatte lafee lammii koo awwaalcha dhabee soora bineensaa tahee abbaan lafaa dhabee lafasaa sooree alagaan irraa jiraata takkaa falatee lafasaa irratti kan siraan bulaa qonni habeeti takkaa falatee lafasaa irratti hojjetee bulaa qonni habeeti.